welcome to another episode of the Stream of Thought podcast, where thoughts flow and ideas stick. I'm your host, Jasmine, and today I had so many random thoughts. Number one, literally today, this morning, I had a thought about how everything is subjective, and it depends on who is telling the story. It'll determine what narrative you get. And I thought about this because I had a professor, because I'm getting a PhD, and normally it goes pretty smooth with my professors, but I had a professor that, looking back on it, maybe it wasn't a huge deal, but took points off of an assignment for a reason that no professor has ever taken points off before. And so I wasn't clear on why the professor took the points off. So I asked, because I was like, it was like a spacing thing. And I was like, I formatted my paper this way, so I'm not really sure what do you mean by it's not formatted correctly. And apparently, well, according to this professor, this is an issue that is widely known and occurs a lot, especially in a Microsoft Word. And so he takes points off for it. And I just thought that is so interesting, because I've always formatted my papers the same way, and this has never happened before. Like I said, not really a big deal. I mean, I'm changing it for the upcoming assignments, but I just thought it was interesting that it really depends. It depends on who you are. It depends on what type of professor you are, how maybe nitpicky you are to take points off for certain things that other professors may not, and vice versa. Which also made me think about politics. Now, not to get like political, because I'm not political at all, but the narrative changes depending on who you listen to. Whatever news station you listen to, whatever politician you listen to, you can hear the same story and they tell it totally different. So everything is subjective, and the truth is whatever you believe. And who am I to tell you that your truth is a lie if you truly believe it? I think deep about things like that, because it kind of is like, well, what's the point of arguing with people? Because my truth is my truth. My experience is my experiences. You can't tell me that I'm wrong for the experiences that I had and for the beliefs that I have. You can tell me that you don't agree, and I think that's different. You don't agree with me, and that's fine. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. So another random thought, and I have a tendency to do this with certain things. Do you ever get like on a roll about something, get really like interested in something, and momentum about something, and it's going really well? Like you're doing this, like it's getting a traction, or traction, and you really enjoy it, and then all of a sudden you just wake up one day and it's like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. So I find myself doing that sometimes. Like I lose interest after I was really, really interested. I was really interested, and then all of a sudden I wasn't anymore. So that was just a totally random thing, because while I haven't done that with this podcast yet, it can be kind of inconsistent sometimes, but I'm still interested in it, and I think that's a sign. That's a really good sign that this is something I'm supposed to be doing, because I enjoy just talking about random things that come to my mind, and just seeing who wants to listen to it, or who can relate to it is totally fine. So, but with other things, like, I don't know what a good example is. I feel like it's been so many things where I was like, yeah, I like it, but maybe not anymore. That also, I think, comes with growth. Like you grow out of things and you become a different person. And so sometimes I gotta pivot, and that's okay. Another random topic that came to my mind probably a few days ago was, what is the actual point of urgent care? And I brought this up to my fiance, I brought this up to my mom, and I'm like, every single time I ever went to urgent care, they sent me to the emergency room. And this whole thought came up because I somehow, I don't really know how, but I pulled a muscle in my chest, and it was hurting so bad. Like I had to lay a certain way. I had to have a pillow on my chest to put pressure on it. Like I couldn't bend down. Like it was rough. And it was to a point where my fiance was like, hey, do you want to go to the emergency room? To urgent care. And I was like, no. Because like I said, every time I've ever been to urgent care, they said, oh, you should go to the emergency room. And yet, I still got a bill from urgent care, because in urgent care, I don't know where whoever's listening is, or if you have this type of urgent care, but the urgent cares here, they require you to put a card down so that they can charge it, and it's mandatory. Like it just automatically comes out of your account, and it's like $200 something just for the visit, but they don't have any type of machinery there to do any x-rays or scans or nothing like that. So if you need any of that done, you have to go to the emergency room. So in my mind, I'm like, why can't I just bypass urgent care and go to the emergency room? Because you're gonna send me there anyway, and then I have one bill instead of two bills. So that makes the most sense. Because it feels like a scam. It feels like they really are getting over on people. Now, I'm sure there are reasons to go to urgent care, like maybe you got COVID, you just need a test or something like that, or you got the flu, you just need a test. I'm sure they do that there, but otherwise, if you need anything else more detailed, do not go to the urgent care. And also, I had a traumatizing experience at the urgent care. I don't know if the doctor was a nurse practitioner or a MD. However, she gave me a diagnosis that was not even accurate. Like it was a terrible diagnosis that she basically was like, it could be permanent, and like you might not be able to walk and all that stuff. And like I said, with no tests, because she couldn't run any tests. She just wrote up something and told me you need to go to the emergency room immediately. I literally left that urgent care crying. I get to the emergency room, and the emergency room doctor was like, I'm not sure why she told you this, because we don't think that that's what this is. So it's things like that where it's like, wow, some people, and maybe she knew how to do her job, I don't know. I don't know her personally, but she did not do it well that day, at that time, with me. And she literally asked me, oh, why are you crying? It could be worse. And I'm like, this what you're telling me is pretty bad. And so you don't have good people skills. That's what I wanted to tell her. And I remember getting a call from that urgent care, from a nurse, from the nurse's line. They were like, oh, we just wanted to check on you. And I was honest. I was like, I had a terrible experience with you all, and I'm traumatized from it, especially since she was wrong. And you should never try to diagnose a patient when you have never run any tests to test for whatever this thing is that you think that they have. But in your mind, you might have the idea in your mind, but you should never say it out loud if you have no proof. So don't tell me, oh, it must be this. And if it's this, you might not ever be able to walk again. Why would you put fear in a patient like that? So, yeah, that was like, I'm not going to urgent care. And honestly, it was a pulled muscle, so in a couple of days it healed and I was totally fine. Like I said, I don't know how I pulled a muscle, but apparently you can pull a muscle very easily in your chest, like sleeping wrong, exercising obviously, but I hadn't been doing any like strenuous like upper body exercises, so I think it was sleeping, because I was sleeping in an awkward position. To close this episode out, I had other couple like random things associated with my wedding. So my wedding is coming up, And so, the countdown has begun, and I'm really excited, or we're really excited to just get it done and be a married couple. A funny thing that has been coming up is something that I did not know. I did not know that there were so many line dances. There are so many current line dances, and I honestly hadn't even considered including them on the playlist for the wedding, and my future husband didn't either because he doesn't even dance like that. It wasn't until one of our aunts came to us and was like, you should definitely put this song and that song and this song. And I'm like, oh my God, like these are a lot of songs. And I thought it makes sense, that you want people to be able to dance. If you're playing all 90s R&B and stuff like that, which is what we like, then they can't really like get down and dance. Like they can just like two-step and like groove, and it's cute. But some people want to actually dance. So one line dance that I learned, and I think I'm pretty good at it. I think I'm decent at it, is boots on the ground. So that one is super popular, and so I'm ready for that one. I got my fan, I've been practicing. It's a whole thing. But then there are others like Usher, Bad Girl, which is like, how would you make a line dance song to that? But it looks really simple. I haven't even tried to learn it, but it just looks like a lot of rolling and just like turning around, then you roll that way, then you roll that way. So it looks like it's easy. And so it'll probably be on the playlist, but you probably won't catch me dancing to it. So I really think that one thing that I've learned about the whole wedding process is that there is so much more to it than I would have ever thought. Like, you get engaged and it's so exciting. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to marry him. Oh my God, I love him, and all that stuff is cute. But then the process of actually planning, you have to consider so many things. The flowers, you gotta consider your dress, of course. You gotta consider the venue, of course. You gotta consider, like, are they gonna provide food at the venue, drinks at the venue, how many people are coming, and that's when it gets really tricky because not everybody can come, and then you have to figure out, well, who can I not put on the list? And then maybe people will get offended about not being on the list. And it's like, if you're at a venue where it's per person per plate, can't everybody be on that list unless they're paying for plates? And then you gotta think about kids. What kids are you allowing kids at all? And for us, we're not. It's strictly adults. But you gotta consider with the kids, like, do they eat table food? Because that's another plate. Are these kids old enough to where they finish their plates? Or will they be picking at it or barely eating it, and then you just pay for this plate that this child just wasted? So it's a lot to think about. However, like I said, back to the original point, there will be a couple line dance songs, and I'll be back here in a month or so to update on how that even went. Like I said, I think I got the boots on the ground, but doing it and there might be different than practicing it with my mom or practicing by myself or just with family. It might be I might forget, who knows, I guess we'll see. But yeah, so those are the random topics that were on my mind this week. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode, and all the episodes will be on, the audio will be on any service that you get your podcast, like Spotify, Apple, but the video will only be on the Stream of Thought podcast YouTube. So yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.